Hi.
Hi.
So please introduce yourself.
Yeah. So hi, I'm Benson from Google. So I work on the Chrome OS team. So I'm software engineer in charge of USB and other connectivity technologies.
Chrome OS is awesome, right?
Yes, thank you. Yeah,
And
I'm actually a long time Chrome OS team member. So this will be my 14th year at Google working on the Chrome OS team.
Chrome OS or Chrome before Chrome OS?
They hired me to do Chrome OS, so I've been with the Chrome OS team since 2010.
And so my favorite laptop is the 2016 Chromebook Plus, and now there's a whole platform called Chromebook Plus,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah.
And it's like a spec minimum or something like that?
It's a spec minimum, yeah. So I think it's part of our our effort to make sure that we have like a tier for high quality Chromebooks.
And one of the cool things we hear at the VESA booth is the stuff that can happen with the video outputs and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I can show you this new Chromebook, which is from one of our partners. This is the Asus ExpertBook CX54. It's based on an Intel Meteor Lake platform. So the cool part about this laptop is that it's our first platform that supports Displayport 2.1. So it's got two Type-C ports, and both Type-C ports support what's called Displayport Alternate Mode 2.1.
And so it can do all these functions here.
Yeah, that's right. And the one that sort of we've highlighted here that are relevant for this use case is Displayport 2.1 running at very high bit rates. So in this case, it's what we have here is our Chromebook connected via Type-C to a docking station, and this docking station is actually what's called an MST. So an MST is a display splitter, a display hub, and so in this case, downstream of the display hub is actually there you go.
So the bunch of displays, how many displays can go there?
I think that this can support. Well, so I'm not the expert on this hub in particular, but potentially it could support up to 3 displays, I think.
So is that part of the spec that every Chromebook Plus should support it, or there's different ones that can support different amounts and stuff?
I think that it is part of the specification that we support a minimum number of displays.
Because people enjoy coming to, for example, sit in the office, plug it in, and boom.
Yeah, so this is definitely a productivity demo. So the demo here is basically demonstrating that we can support a display. So in this case, this is the frame rate of this monitor, which is 160 hertz, and this is a Ultra HD, so 4K 160. And so we're driving that through a DisplayPort cable downstream of this hub, connected via a Type-C to Type-C cable. And the relevant technologies in play here are DisplayPort 2.1 running at UHBR20, and DisplayPort Alternate Mode 2.1 with pin assignment D. So a little bit on the nerdy side, but what that means is that basically you can do high resolution displays at the same time you're doing USB connectivity as well.
And Chromium OS is open source, right?
Chromium OS is open source.
And this stuff goes in the open source?
Yes, actually, in fact, much of the technology here actually comes from the Linux kernel. So I'm a kernel contributor as a part of my job at Google, and the real sort of magic that happens here is actually coming from our vendors actually contribute source code to the Linux kernel, and that's how we're beneficiaries of that.
So it's totally open source support, and the stuff in the open source that enables this amazing amount of data to be hardware accelerated by the little chips and stuff that support the stuff somewhere in the laptop?
So I think more precisely in this case, what we're leveraging is the display controller on this system on chip. So the display controller is actually part of the Intel Meteor Lake platform. And so the Intel Meteor Lake platform, our drivers that support the Intel Meteor Lake platform come from our partners at Intel, who contribute source code into the upstream Linux kernel. And as an open source project, that's our workflow. Our workflow is that we get like our support patches for this chip that's in this laptop from Intel via Linus, basically.
And via Linus and all the other guys that work over there.
That's right. Actually,
there's a bunch of people optimizing a bunch of stuff to make it even better and work like better and better. How does that work?
So we actually employ several Linux maintainers as well.
Yeah. Do you want to introduce?
Yeah. So this is Manasi.
Hi.
Hi. My name is Manasi. I work for Google now.
Sorry, why don't you give me this? Yeah.
Sure.
What do you do?
I work on the Chrome OS display team, and I work mainly on the display driver stack. So all the kernel drivers that enable the ADP panels and the external displays. And that actually comes as a tribal knowledge to me because I worked for Intel in the Linux driver space for 8 years before joining Google. So.
And how much in the open source can you do to? Because it sounds like so much data. So much data goes through these cables, right? Mm-hmm. And it needs to be smooth and reliable, and every time you plug, it just works.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to be considered in making it great.
Yeah, there is a lot that goes behind the Displayport, like 2.1, which can carry like 80 gigabits per second data, and that's all open source code, all upstream part of the Linux drivers. And we are actually running 6.6 Linux kernel, which is pretty close to the tip of the tree Linux mainline drivers. So
that's awesome. Actually, Chrome OS has really been awesome in terms of Linux geeks seeing Linux everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also we have a policy on our team for upstream first, and I think a lot of that is also because we want to make sure that like this benefits our project, but also everyone else who runs a Linux distribution. So if you let's say that you're not running Chrome OS, but you're running some Debian or some Fedora, we want you that if you have the same hardware, like a Meteor Lake on those other operating systems and other Linux distributions, we want to have the same benefit.
And every Chromebook Plus and Chromebook in general is just boom, boom, boom. You can put whatever Linux you want. Or how easy is it to switch?
We have a developer mode. We've always had a developer mode. I wouldn't say it's necessarily the intended use case, but if you're geeky enough to know how to put your system into developer mode, you're welcome to put your own Linux distribution on.
Because you've been helping the Linux ecosystem so much, right, over the last 14 years.
Sure. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Because this benefits all of Linux laptop desktops.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
And there's been support for some different apps and stuff down here for a while, right? Mm-hmm. How good are the app supports? Because you can run a bunch of Linux apps and Android apps.
Yeah. So I would say that we, in terms of Chromebook app support these days, the most recent innovations have been actually our ability to run different things inside of a container and inside of a VM. So I think that the app support really is great, especially when you consider things like Crostini. So are you familiar with Crostini?
Yeah. So can you remind people what it does?
So Crostini is it allows you to run a Linux distribution inside of the Chrome OS. Inside of container. So we found a way to deploy a Linux distribution securely and safely to users who are interested in using Linux applications.
And something I want to see, for example, I like to record 4K 60 video.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I want to see like DaVinci Resolve. I know it's supported in some Linux on x86, and I don't know if it's going to happen inside, for example. Do you think is there any video editing that works on a Chromebook?
I'll have to get back to you on that.
We'll see. But it's some things like that, right? I wonder how much is being done to provide the most advanced kind of apps that some people might want to do, and graphic designers and video editing and music making and a few things,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So maybe there's some stuff happening around more app support.
I think there is. What I can say is that I think that there are we do have partnerships with certain very very big creative apps companies. I think that there is a.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
And here, this is the Intel Core Ultra 7 Meteor Lake. Which processors are part of the Chromebook Plus? Is there like a list of supported platforms?
I believe there is, but you'll have to.
Okay.
I
we'll see.
don't have that full list.
Yeah, because I was just wondering if there's any ARM-powered Chromebooks in this Chromebook Plus right now, or maybe it's just limited to a few platforms right now. And well, we'll see. People can go online and check the list of Chromebook Plus devices and which one supports all these different things. Is there anything else you can show on the output?
I think
when you have a 4K display, does it impact the speed of the USB ports or anything?
That's actually a very, very astute point. So this is actually, taking things back to like talking about Displayport 2.1. Prior to Displayport 2.1, you'll find a lot of docking stations have a sort of this fundamental trade-off, which is that if you have a docking station with blue ports on it, with like USB 3 ports, that typically means that like the display performance is limited, right? You can't have so you'll find a lot of like existing MST docking stations which will say, if you're connected and you want to use the DisplayPort the DisplayPort along with USB 3 ports, you can only do 4K 30, for example, or you can only do, if you want to do more than one display out, you can do one 4K 60 or two 4K 30s.
Is that how it was before?
That's how it was before. If you go and you look for hubs, you'll find sort of a description.
All kinds of trade-offs.
Yeah, and so the advantage, the innovation for Displayport 2.1 is that we've actually clocked the display lanes somewhere around more than twice as fast, right? So UHBR20 actually is that key technology, which is 20 gigabits per lane. And so prior to this, the highest speed for Displayport 1.4 was a speed level called HBR3. HBR3 was only 8.1 gigabits per lane. And so with the higher bandwidth, it gives you a lot more flexibility to connect large high-resolution displays downstream of this, and still have USB 3.
So I've been having my SanDisk USB 3.2 Gen 2.2 2x2, but I've never been able to get the full bandwidth out of it. It's 20 gigabit, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome to connect like really fast SSDs externally, and it just works. And also,
this is our first Chromebook that actually can support the 2x2 mode as well.
So that means 20 gigabit SSD.
But the key is you have to directly attach it.
Directly attached,
yes, because in this configuration, you're actually using half of the lanes in the connector.
So 40 gigabit goes over there, another 40 gigabit on this side?
No, they're all separate.
Separate.
They're all separate. It's just that, like, I mean, if you want to get into the details, basically the connection between here and here is using what's called multifunction mode, which means that two lanes are being reserved for DisplayPort, and the other two are USB 3. And 2 lanes of USB 3 is basically just 10 gigabits per second. So if you come around here, basically these ports are guaranteed for 10 gigabits per second only.
Each?
Yeah. Well, no. So all the ports that are labeled for USB 3, they're connected to the system via just one, basically like one lane of USB 3.
But there's one that says 3.1 right here. That's orange. Is also could be.
I think that for each of these ports that are labeled as USB 3.x, USB 3 point something, the speed rating is the same. But the point is that, like, if you have a 20 gig per second like SSD, you can't actually achieve that at the same time that you have a display use case.
You cannot. But
no.
If you put it out on the other side?
If you put it on the other side, it will. And actually, this is also our first Chromebook that supports 2x2.
So that means 20 gig.
Yes.
There's even this Thunderbolt 4, right? Or the USB 4
so that's,
spec.
That's the demo on the other side.
But does it laptop run that?
Yes.
So it does the full 40 gigabit?
Yes. So this Chromebook can support USB 4 V1 at 40 gigabits per second, and DisplayPort 2.1 at 80 gigabits per second, and also USB 3.2 Gen 2x2 at 20 gigabits per second.
All simultaneously. I'm just joking. Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and actually, this is a property of actually the Intel SoC and also the Intel retimer.
So what you just told me, if I remember correctly,
yes,
is totally 140 gigabit per second of stuff happening at the same time.
Well, so some of it's mutually exclusive.
So some might.
Yeah.
Okay.
So as basically, you have a limited resource, which is the number of super speed lanes in the Type-C connector. And what we're talking about is actually how does the system choose which mode to use.
And there's maybe a other bunch of specs that people want to have, right? Sure. They want to have super fast, amazing Wi-Fi.
Yes.
It's the best Wi-Fi in the world in this kind of spec.
So I can't. So I think we're up to date on the Wi-Fi, but I can't. But I wouldn't feel comfortable like
confirm which one.
Yeah. If you'd give me like a. You could email me later and I can find out.
And I guess maybe some other things is potentially the Ethernet, or would go from a Type-C to an Ethernet adapter, and maybe you get 10 gigs of Ethernet.
Yes, actually, so Ethernet is my domain as well.
Oh yeah.
And so yes, but you would achieve that using Thunderbolt actually.
So there is an Ethernet right here.
Yeah, there is Ethernet, but I believe this one is Realtek 1 gig Ethernet. Yeah.
1 gig, but in theory you could do 10 gig Ethernet.
You can do 10 gig Ethernet. It would for 10 gig Ethernet you'd probably want either a Thunderbolt 3 or USB 4.
Because all the kids in all these schools that buy Chromebooks and stuff, right? They really want full speed, right? They want all the highest stuff. Some of them, right?
Eventually they will. When they grow up.
When they grow up and they want to use this for work. Because how many people use Chromebooks for work?
So what I would say is that I actually do use it for work. So at Google we like to eat our own dog food, as they say.
So for 14 years you've been doing exclusively Chrome OS.
You mean in terms of my workstation at work? I would say probably the last 5 or 6 years I've been on Chrome OS primarily. Yeah.
And so how do you do all your development, for example?
We use mostly over SSH to a workstation, but we actually have. So do you remember I mentioned Crostini? We have something similar to that for running our development environment on the Chromebook itself.
Your stack or all your
yeah. Actually,
system.
I've been able to do Chrome OS development on a Chromebook.
What I love about Chromebooks is that I just log off and I give it to someone. It's like a new laptop. It's so like.
It's stateless.
It's like it never slows down, right?
Right.
In 14 years, you haven't seen one Chromebook get slow.
Well, I also live dangerously, so I'm on Dev Channel, so I have seen them crash and get slow, because I run an unstable build. So.
Do these SSDs and stuff in there, do they get tired after a bunch of years and they start performing worse?
I think that batteries and SSDs, they're all considered expendable. So I think of the components on the system, yes, eventually you may see either the battery or the SSD wear.
But you don't do like a bunch of screws. People can easily replace a bunch of stuff, no?
Yeah,
that's not part of the spec.
We do actually have some of our partners who build Chromebooks that are more repairable. In fact, I think actually, so Boris here actually has worked on the Framework Chromebook.
All right.
Yeah. So Framework I think is probably they've been around here at this conference as well.
Framework is awesome, right?
Yeah, you're familiar with Framework, right?
It's like modular, customizable,
repairable. Yeah. So we have a Chromebook model with them. It's based on Intel Alder Lake, 12th generation CPUs. Everything is compatible. Most of the components are compatible with their Windows model. You can replace them individually. All the ports and internals are replaceable. Like memory is upgradable, disk, display.
That's awesome.
Yeah, right? Even here you can upgrade the SSD.
SSD upgradable?
Yeah.
So after 3, 4, 5 years, if it gets tired, you just swap to another one.
Yes, you can also upgrade the battery if you find one, but the SSD...
Replace the battery. Yeah. Replace the battery, right?
Replace the battery, yeah.
Because Chromebooks are... I used to love the One Laptop per Child project from 15 years ago.
I'm familiar, yeah.
And then this is kind of like the realization of this idea, right? Because millions and millions of kids get affordable laptops.
Yeah.
Right?
This is pretty expensive, and the repairable framework is also kind of on the higher end of the price because of the low volume. But yeah, we believe that that's the future.
All right. So there are some affordable, but you always want to aim high also with the specs for people who want to get better stuff.
That's why we differentiate between a regular Chromebook and Chromebook Plus. Chromebooks are mostly for school, and Chromebook Plus are more productivity related, enterprise.
And you also use Chrome OS 100%?
Yes.
For everything you do?
I also use cloud because it builds faster, but regardless of which laptop I use, I will go to cloud, so it doesn't really matter.
Is it easy to use the cloud to accelerate your workflow and stuff?
Yeah.
For everybody know what to do?
Yeah, actually, yeah, so there's a little bit of inside like how Google does things now, and we've long since stopped issuing like a workstation to our users, to employees, to developers actually even. So like new people who have started on my team, they've never actually had a machine on their desk that actually they do builds on. They're issued a cloud instance. So I think that Google is very progressive in that way of working in the cloud away from like sort of physical hardware. And I think the Chromebook is actually like a neat realization of like a network terminal.
When you build something, it's just like super fast.
Well, Chrome OS is quite heavy. It's even
hours.
Yeah, even with a instance that is like 128 cores and a lot of SSD.
Even the biggest instance,
it can still take like 40 minutes to build.
40 minutes. What can be done to make it faster? Just get bigger.
You can do distributed builds.
Or incremental builds.
Yeah, incremental builds. Yeah. But
you do that?
Huh?
You do that?
Yeah, everyone. So the idea is that basically, if you're just changing one part of the system, you just build that part, instead of the whole thing. Yeah. Well, you're talking to a bunch of engineers here, yeah. So we're on the ground in terms of like actual like what we do. So.
That's awesome. How many feature requests do you have on the? So many people want a lot of things to be added in the Chrome OS.
I think we generate a lot of our own feature requests as well.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. But thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
And are you interested